Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com and oh wait, this isn't what I ordered at all. What's going on here? Well my friends, it looks like we've fallen for some false advertising. Boo, boo-earns to all of this. So with this in mind, I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com and these are 10 clear-cut examples of video game false advertising. Number 10, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So let's start off small, and by small I mean completely pointless. In a truly strange attempt to mislead audiences, Ubisoft took the stage at Microsoft's Inside Xbox event, announcing to an excited crowd that they were about to get a first look into Assassin's Creed Valhalla's gameplay. When the trailer began, fans were eager to see the gameplay for the newest title in the Assassin's Creed series. The eagerness quickly turned to disappointment though, because it became quickly apparent that this grand gameplay trailer didn't actually have any gameplay in it at all. In the scale of false advertising, this is a rather small offence, but it's also an extremely pointless one. Ubisoft didn't need to claim that this trailer was a gameplay one. They could have just said that it's just another cinematic trailer. Either they were looking to stir up controversy, or they really thought that fans were stupid enough to believe it. Either way, it's a bit insulting. Number 9, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Whoa, hold on fans, I am in no way saying that this game is bad. Just bear with me on this one, because actually it's a cheeky bit of misdirection. So the original Final Fantasy VII is of course an immensely popular game, with many people considering it to be a contender for the greatest video game, and say it with me kids, of all time. So when the Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced, there was a lot of pressure. With all of the expectations placed on this game, Square Enix were eager to market the game as a remake, pushing the narrative that this would be a high-definition recreation with all of the original content, with the gameplay just being slightly updated while everything else remaining faithful. But upon the game's release, audiences were quite surprised to see changes in the story. Now at first these were mostly just small additions, or exploring existing characters with new side missions and a few new cutscenes. But when you reach the end of the game, it's revealed that the entire title has been a build-up to a change in the story of the original and making a new adventure going forward. No matter how you feel about this change, it certainly is not a faithful remake. Number 8, Halo 5 Guardians. Once upon a time, the Halo series was the pinnacle of the first-person shooter genre. With its unique combat and a multiplayer that carried the Xbox for years, Halo was truly Microsoft's golden goose. Despite this though, in recent years, the Halo franchise has suffered a rather undignified fall from grace, and nowhere is this more apparent than the mess that was the advertising for Halo 5. The promotional material for this game showed multiple story elements that just didn't appear in the actual title, while the story that did appear in the games was a complicated mess that confused newcomers and fans alike. Aside from the story being largely unintelligible, the trailers for the game built up a series of big old dramatic battles between a new character known as Locke and the franchise staple Master Chief. While the two do eventually fight, it's a boring fist fight with none of the drama that was promised. Number 7, Destiny. If you think that the disappointment of Halo 5 could have been avoided if only the game was still made by Bungie, then you might be forgetting the early days of Destiny. Bungie's sci-fi epic had a lot of expectations. Audiences were excited to see the next big game from the once great Halo developers, and the gameplay looked great, and the developers' history gave them a pedigree in sci-fi first-person shooters. When the trailers released, the game was presented as a large, story-driven adventure in which you play as a guardian exploring the galaxy and battling enemies. This image was consistent across the entire promotion of the game, but when the title actually released, it was about as exciting as Peter Dinklage's vocal performance. The massive story that we were promised turned into a series of loosely connected live service style missions, and the aliens, well, they just became a generic evil entity named very originally, and wait for it, the Darkness. Oh please. Number 6, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Electronic Arts are infamous for their anti-consumer practices, a trend that the publisher unfortunately brought to their licensed Star Wars games, especially Star Wars Battlefront 2. The game quickly found itself in controversy due to its extreme implementation of microtransactions, but EA didn't even wait until the game was out to start misleading audiences. The publisher claimed before its release that the game's campaign would focus on the villainous Empire, showing the galactic conflict from their perspective and allowing the players to explore the Star Wars universe from a brand new viewpoint. Now this was true, but only for 3 whole missions. Then the Special Ops squad that you play as promptly joins the heroic rebels, and players' dreams of playing as the bad guy were absolutely shattered. Boo. Boo-earns. Number 5. Alien Colonial Marines. Now it's hard to believe now, but when it was announced, people were very excited about Aliens Colonial Marines. The trailers were an exciting mixture of both the horror and action that makes the Alien franchise so beloved. The graphics, the lighting, the AI, it all just looked perfect. Then the game released, and reviewers and fans quickly discovered that the game from the trailer and the game that they got were two very different things. Instead of a tense environment with a clever alien foe, players were given a generic first-person shooter where waves of aliens would just hurl themselves into gunfire, when they weren't aggressively glitching out, that is. The final product was so different to what was advertised that Sega and Gearbox Studios found themselves served with a lawsuit, with the plaintiff complaining that the game was such a departure from the trailers that people had been misled into buying it. Number 4. Anthem. Who even remembers Anthem at this point in time? Before Marvel's Avengers was stinking up the live service scene, EA and BioWare's Anthem was a disappointment to audiences worldwide. The game had a long and troubled production, spending the majority of its 7-year development changing its concept and just bouncing from team to team. In 2017, EA released their gameplay trailer for Anthem, very little of which actually made it into the final game. The trailer showed a dynamic world with seamless loading times, alongside an active world with moving bases and unique background events going on between the various species. Of course, when Anthem finally released, it contained next to none of these features. The air quotes campaign was a series of repetitive, loosely connected missions, coupled with a multitude of technical glitches. To make matters worse, what was presented to audiences as a gameplay demo was actually a proof of concept for the game, and far from a representation of the final product. Number 3. Killzone 2. Now this one finds itself so high on this list due to the fact that not only were audiences misled, but the developer of the game themselves didn't actually know what was coming. As usual in the lead up to the release of a new console, Sony made a lot of big promises, coupled with flashy trailers and the like. It's just a shame that these were, more often than not, completely devoid of actual content. In the run-up to the release of the PlayStation 3, Killzone 2 was announced with a very graphically impressive, for the time at least, trailer. As the trailer was run, the Sony announcer at E3 claimed that what audiences were seeing was running in real time on the PS3. Of course, this was not the case at all. The footage shown in no way represented the final product and wasn't even a trailer for the game. It was proof of concept footage. To make matters worse, the developer Guerrilla Studios was not aware this claim was going to be made. Sony decided to present the test footage to audiences as a representation of the final product, and as a result, both the game and console suffered a bit. Number 2. No Man's Sky. At this point, No Man's Sky is more closely associated with false advertising than anything else. Across the game's development, a lot of very large promises were made, with the game's developer Sean Murray saying that the game was capable of just about everything. And then, when the game actually released, Sean Murray's rich array of promises fell rather flat. The vast universe definitely was there, but it was a mostly large, empty, procedurally generated space with little to engage players, and those were just the promised features that actually made it into the game. Now, luckily, the game is receiving a new lease of life now, as the team has gone and worked incredibly hard at it, and I actually can recommend it now, but back in the day, oh boy, I'm gonna pass. And number 1, Fallout 76. Come on, you knew this one was coming, and my god, where do we even start with this one? Bethesda's live service, multiplayer-centric Fallout game was not well received by anyone. The game itself, despite being marketed as a large, detailed exploration of the Fallout universe, was actually a glitch-filled, barren mess that failed to please the few people who actually got conned into buying the game. To make matters worse, Bethesda couldn't seem to stop lying to its fans, with the collector's edition of the game leading to the infamous nylon bag fiasco. An exclusive canvas bag was promised to those who bought the $200 collector's edition of Fallout 76, but they were instead given a cheap, tacky nylon bag that looked nothing like the bag that was advertised. And you know what, Bethesda? They weren't done. They released an exclusive rum with an iconic Nuka-Cola bottle for the low price of $79.99. Which of course was a deception, with the Nuka-Cola bottle being a cheap plastic casing for a standard glass that certainly did not contain $80 worth of rum. And after all of this, Bethesda compensated victims of its lies with 500 atoms of in-game currency, which for reference isn't enough to buy the in-game version of the bag that they lied about. Brilliant. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 clear-cut examples of video game false advertising. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. If you want to chat to me further, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. It's my personal gaming channel where I stream every single Wednesday and Sunday. But before I go, my friends, I just want to say one thing. There is one thing that we should not ever sell ourselves short on, and that is just being kind to ourselves. Be kind to yourself, both physically and mentally, because you deserve love, happiness, and success, my friend. We all do as human beings, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, okay? Big love from me to you, my friend. Now go out there and absolutely smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.